So it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. Well, basically, just it's been a case of you know not really kind of feeling like it. Some stuff that happened while I was on holiday and stuff. But recently, I've had a bit of inspiration to kind of start doing it again. And today, I want to talk about managerial sackings and managers in football in general, and the whole way that it's going. I mean, I heard of some ridiculous rumours recently, and I'm going to cover three clubs in particular: Leeds United, Watford, and Southampton, whose three managers are all under scrutiny. Now, Leeds is no surprise since Cellino has joined the club. They have come through their fair share of managers. First, foremost was David Hockaday was appointed was the first manager was appointed by Cellino, who then after he left, Darko Milinovic was there, and he was not there for too long. Then Neil Redfern was the manager, and Cellino was then disqualified for the Football League. Obviously, that's something I'm not going to go into. Announced he would not be returning to the club after his ban end. Redfern was replaced by Uwe Rosler. Rosler then was replaced by Stevie Evans, who started to look like he was starting to take Leeds in the right direction. They were looking a kind of more solid team. I mean, it took a long time, but they were looking better under him for sure. And then obviously he was fired as well. And then Gary Monk came in. He's done a fantastic job. I mean, he got so close to getting Leeds into the playoffs, and they have just missed out. And it's going to be a long period, building Leeds back up to a team that can either get up through the playoffs in the championship or win the championship. But certainly, I mean, now, yeah, his job's under scrutiny, and not since Leeds got relegated from the Premier League all those years ago have they even looked close to going up. So I mean, to sack a manager who's gone from the groundwork that I feel that Stevie Evans actually done to the job that Gary Monk's done this season. Now, yes, okay, they are not going to be in the Premier League next season. They're not going to get into the playoffs. But having said that, I think he has done a tremendous job there. And managers need time in football, and it's something that's certainly not been happening under the Cellino era. I mean, he's only been there since 2014, and they've had you know five managers, give or take. And as long as Cellino's at the club, it seems like that's just the way it's going to be for Leeds. I mean, instant success. Either well, sorry, either you instantly succeed, or you obviously get sacked. But you have to wonder. Even if someone did get them up to the Premier League and it didn't go too well, I mean, would he probably sack them as well? And patience in football is a key, and it's something it's a forgotten art in football these days. And I think if Leeds get rid of Gary Monk, it would be a big mistake. I think he has done a tremendous job there. I mean, I wasn't fully kind of taken by what he'd done at Swansea, but I think when you see the job he does at Leeds, you can see that he has a bright future in the game, and hopefully they'll make the smart choice to keep him on board. Now that brings me to Watford. Watford's a very interesting one. They were taken over by the Pozzo family, and Gianfranco Zola was appointed the head coach. Now this is also going to take me to talking about Birmingham. Just a little bit there, just a little bit. Actually replaced Sean Dyche in 2012, and that's, you think about the job that Sean Dyche has done at Burnley. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, Gianfranco Zola, no doubt, was a great footballer, but as a manager, he's just, in my opinion, he's not the best, not by any stretch of imagination. Now, I'm not going to go through all the managers that's been there since the Pozzo family been there, but I'm going to talk about one in particular, Jokanovic, yeah, who was appointed and successfully took Watford back up to the Premier League, and basically at the start of the season with Watford, he was then, unceremoniously let go by the club, which didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And you see the job that Jokanovic is doing at Fulham, and Fulham were a club that were very close to getting relegated the last couple of seasons, and now they have every chance of going up through the playoffs. And you know what it's usually like with the playoffs. If you kind of sneak in there at the end, or you're kind of in that sixth position, usually those kind of teams will go up. It's just the way it seems to work with the old playoff system. And Jokanovic, really looks a good coach. I mean, he took Watford up. He could take Fulham up, even if he doesn't this season. He certainly's got every chance of doing it next season. Fulham obviously have a lot of money behind them. But then they brought in Kike Flores, who again did a good job at Watford and was only there for a season himself, and then he was let go. And then they brought in Walter Mazzari, former Napoli coach, who joined there at the start of this season, and it looks like they're going to let him go. And you have to ask yourself. I mean, Watford got promoted to the Premier League under Jokanovic. Now, surely that's the kind of minimum. Well, not the minimum, but I mean, that's an achievement. And he was let go. But under Flores last season, they had a good enough season. They didn't get relegated. I mean, if you're a club like Watford, I mean, what is it you're really expecting to achieve? I mean, you're a team that by all accounts, could be a yo-yo team. You could be in the Championship. You could be in the Premier League. To survive in the Premier League every season for a club like Watford should be enough. But obviously, with the board that are in charge there, it doesn't seem to be enough. And I'm not very clear on what they're wanting to achieve. I mean, they're certainly not going to be a top seven team. And maybe they're all looking at the old Leicester thing from last season and thinking, if they get lucky and get the right manager, then that can happen. But I mean, that was something that was 1 in a million. It really was. It was 1 in a million. And if they sack Mazzari, I mean, it's only a matter of time with these clubs. I mean, if you constantly keep getting rid of managers, it's only a matter of time before there's an instability and you're not going to kind of keep that league position. Players are going to end. You're going to end up losing players. You're going to end up, especially if you're doing, especially if you were to sack like lots of managers. We've seen it happen with Villarreal in the Spanish league in the La Liga a few years ago. They had sacked 3 or 4 managers that season and got relegated. And it's no surprise. You need stability in football. Now, you know, now an example I would make about not keeping blind faith is when Gareth Southgate was Middlesbrough manager, and Middlesbrough were a club that, in my opinion, were never in any danger of getting relegated. And he somehow took a team that had players like they obviously had Stuart Downing and they had I don't know if they still had Adam Johnson at that point, but anyway, they had a lot of young talented players, and he took them down. And Middlesbrough struggled for years, and okay, they got back up this season, and they are going to be relegated. They're going to be back in the Championship next season. But at the same time, you have to be willing to kind of have faith in managers. Like with Tottenham, Pochettino is a terrific manager. He really is. He's brilliant. Tottenham, they're not going to quite win the league this season, but it's been a very good season. They've only lost 4 times this year. They had a bit of a bad start, but this really has been Chelsea's year. And if Tottenham can build upon this and get another couple of players, then there's no reason why Tottenham can't go and challenge again next season. But that winning run they went on was tremendous, and you certainly wouldn't sack Pochettino. And Levy has been one person in the past as well who's not been shy of sacking managers. So you just have to kind of look at it. And then obviously with Wenger at Arsenal, it looks like this is going to be the first season that Arsenal are not going to be in the top 4 for a very, very, very long time. And that you got to maybe kind of ask yourself, is this time for Wenger to go? I think it probably is. I think it's kind of got to the point now where it'd be better for him and it'd be better for the club for there to be a parting of the ways there. Now, obviously, Leicester City, they were in the relegation zone earlier on in the season under Ranieri. I personally don't agree with his sacking, and I do believe that there was certainly a player revolt. I also believe that the current man in charge, Shakespeare, was a big part of that. And Leicester City, that they won the league last season, a tremendous achievement. But that's as good as it's going to get for them. They did very well in the Champions League as well. But again, they're not a team that have any divine right to be in the Premier League. They are a team that has decidedly average players, in my opinion. I mean, Mahrez hasn't exactly been his best. Vardy's not been kind of fired. I mean, they've obviously missed N'Golo Kante. I mean, he's obviously made a massive difference. You only have to look at Chelsea to see that. But this brings me to the last club, which is obviously Southampton. And Southampton haven't obviously been bad with their managers. They obviously had Pochettino, obviously, and they've also had Koeman. 2 brilliant managers in my opinion. And Koeman, certainly is brought a lot of pride back to Everton this season. They've really looked a much better side under him this season. But they're obviously talking about sacking Klopp well. Now, this was his first season in the Premier League. Had a little bit of a rough start, but Southampton are sitting 12th. They're sitting in quite a steady position. They still have the opportunity to, finish in the top 10. And it just really boggles my mind how a chairman can just decide when a manager's doing a perfectly good job to get rid of them. There's absolutely times in football you need to get where you need to obviously think, right, it's time to move on. And Sunderland would be case in point. In January, it didn't look like there was going to be any chance of them staying up, and they decided to stick with David Moyes. When, in my opinion, it would have been better to appoint someone else and try and keep yourselves up. I mean, examples of making managerial decisions at the right time is Hull City and Swansea City. Those two teams are battling it out between them to see who stays up. And and I've just forgotten his name. Give me 2 seconds. City. Myrtle Silva. I've apologised to all he is there for the delay there. And Mario Silva, because Mario Silva has done a tremendous job. Hull's home record under him has been tremendous. Yes, they did lose today, but under him, they've won more. They've won pretty much all of their home games. I mean, there's only been one or two with they haven't won there, and that just shows you how deep in trouble they really were, because that's them only kind of above the brink there. Swansea as well, of course, they made the change with bringing in. I've forgotten again. Swansea. Paul Clement. Yeah, Paul Clement. And, he's done a solid job there. They, again, are a club, that are, the two clubs are fighting for their lives, and they both made those managerial changes at the same time. And it's really going to be a battle between those two teams to see who stays up. But, I mean, obviously in football, there is times where you have to say that it's time to move on and bring a new manager in. And then there's times where you have to, be smart and think, well, the manager's doing a good job and stick with them. But anyway, that's just really what I want to kind of talk about today. I mean, like I said, I'll probably do a few more videos, over the kind of next week or so. It's just when anything that kind of comes into my head, that inspires me to do one, certainly, because there's no point doing one for the sake of doing it. But anyway, thank you for watching.